Well, hello, hello. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. Today we have a very, very special guest with the most unique gift I have ever seen. I've never seen anybody else do this. And a dear, dear, dear soul, Bill Sanda. I'm going to turn it over to him to let him talk a little bit about himself and what he does, and hope you guys enjoy it. Hi, Bill. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Maryam. Very pleased to be with you. Thank you for inviting me today.
Of
Very
course, my
appreciative.
pleasure, my pleasure. Um, I remember when I first met you, I thought I was going to kind of a lecture about um, things Akashic Record, and I didn't know much about it. I'd heard about it. A friend of mine had signed up, and she said, "Let's just go and check this out." I'm like, "Yeah, great," and I love this kind of stuff. So little did I know that it turned out to be like little demonstrations. And I happen to be one of the people you chose to show what you do to. And I was smitten ever since. And I'm gonna let you basically talk about what that is because I don't want to butcher it and I don't want to give wrong information. But it was just I've never seen anybody do that.
Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you. Again, my name is Bill Sanda, and I call myself a healing collaborator in that I work with you, and this is not about me doing something to you, but with you. So I want to make that very clear that this is a collaboration. And I work with a energetic tool that we call the Akashic Records. You may or may not have heard about that. The records, you might say, are an energetic field that encompasses, people say, the entire universe, a universal energy that really all practitioners access. The word Akash or Akashic is an ancient Sanskrit word that means primary source, primary substance, primary field of energy. So you might call the Akash, again, the Akashic records a primary source, primary field of energy that we know energetically contains a record, energetic record of all our thoughts, actions, behaviors, patterns, feelings, emotions, actions, decisions, you name it. It's a recording of every lifetime that we've existed as soul. So your soul exists continually. It goes on lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. But then within that soul period, you have individual lifetimes, whether it's here on Earth or elsewhere, whether you are a female or a male, it doesn't matter. Every action you've ever basically committed to is recorded, and we can access that energy. In the past, in the ancient times, the witch doctors, the oracles, shamans, and so on were the ones who had a higher level of consciousness who were able to access that field of energy. It wasn't called the Akashic Records back then. It was called Tree of Knowledge, Tree of Life, Book of Knowledge, Book of Life, and so on. And you'll find references to the what we now call the Akashic Records in ancient Sumerian Sanskrit, Egyptian hieroglyphics, Mayan hieroglyphics.
Wow. Okay.
It's mentioned in the Bible, in the Quran, the Kabbalah.
Right.
Again, as a tree of life, tree of knowledge, or book of life, book of knowledge. It wasn't until the late 1800s that the word Akashic record was coined by a woman named Madame Blavatsky, who was a Russian philosopher, scientist, writer, who said that she was downloading all her writings, which was basically a comparison of Eastern and Western religions and philosophies. And she created what was called theosophy,
Mm.
uh, way back then, which was followed by a lot of intellectuals around the world. And
Wasn't
she
she
coined the
like
term
some kind
Akashic
of
records.
wasn't she
I'm
some kind
sorry.
of a medium or something too?
I'm sorry.
Madame Blavatsky, wasn't she also a medium?
Yes,
Or
she was.
okay.
Yeah.
I thought I had heard her name, but I didn't know she's the one who coined the term Akashic Records.
It's generally given to her. And she said that she was downloading all her books or material from the beyond.
Hmm.
um, as a medium, as a channel, whatever you want to call that energy. Um, and so it carried on. And one of the most well-known of the Akashic Record practitioners was Edgar Cayce, who
Hmm.
you may or may not know did around 14,000 healings in his lifetime, and 3,000 of those were done in the Akashic Records.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he had a particular way of working with the records. He's a trance medium, and he worked with the individual, connecting to the Akash through a very, I would say, complicated meditation practice. And then he would then interpret that energy for the individual.
Hmm.
And so it's interesting, my connection to the Akashic Records was actually directly involved through Edgar Cayce.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, back in 2010, I was living in Charlottesville, Virginia, the home of Thomas Jefferson and University of Virginia. And a dear friend of mine named Joanne was bringing in speakers from Virginia Beach, the Edgar Cayce Foundation, where it's located. And they have a big publishing company. And one of the books is Edgar Cayce on the Akashic Records, which was lying on a table as I was walking by. And I had no particular interest in the Akashic Records at the time. I'd heard about it, but didn't really practice it, never had a reading before. So I'm walking by the table, and all of a sudden it energetically smacks me in the head. And basically, I heard, read me, read me, read me. And so I
Wow.
bought the book and I said, okay, I'll read you. Yeah, I get it. And I bought it and read it that evening, or the most of it, I guess. And that's when I discovered like an inner knowing that, oh, this is what I'm to be doing the rest of my life, is working with the Akashic Records,
Wow.
which was a real, in a way, a shock, because I had no expectation. I wasn't looking for anything at that time. And I had never had a reading before.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, he says, oh, you're going to be reading the Akashic Records the rest of your life. So that's how I started into all this.
That's really fascinating. But I have to say, I mean, I have had Akashic Records readings as well, other than what you do. And yours is very different. Like the readings that I've had have been of the kind that, they would tune in, sort of not trance, but just sort of like tune into the energies of whatever and bring in whatever information that has been, but yours has been very different. I mean, I'm going to let you talk about the kind that you do, but I just, um, is that still considered a reading what you do, or is more healing, or
Well, there's no one way to work with the records. Okay, it's everybody's has their individual way of accessing the Akashic Records. You can get it through meditation, through a shamanic journey, through particular prayers, and so on. So, there are, hundreds, if not thousands, of Akashic Record readers around the world. And like I said, everybody will work with the records in their own particular way. Generally, yeah, as you said, yeah, the general kind of way of looking at the Akashic Records is that you will get information about your certain past lives and how they influenced you today. Maybe who you were way back, 5 lifetimes ago, and so on. That's not what I do. Okay,
Mhm.
it's interesting, but it's not what I do. I'm interested in the experience. I'm interested in empowering you to become more of who you truly are. Human beings in general create their future based on their past memories, beliefs, actions, results, and so on.
Right.
And what happens is that we repeat patterns over and over and over again. A thing like, oh, you get married and then you get divorced, but you marry the same kind of personality, but a different body. Oops. And I've heard that over and over and over again. Or the same thing with the kind of work that you do,
Mhm.
the kind of people that you relate to, friends, and so on. So the point of what I do is a frequency conversation that we have. The frequency in that I don't use a lot of English language when I channel the Akashic records. Okay, you're not going to get a lot of like past life information and so on. That's not what I do. It's not my interest. What we do is to look at who you are in the present and the now, and those energetic influences from your past lives that are still impacting you, your beliefs. Why are you believing a certain kind of a thing? Why do you like certain kind of people and other people you don't? And whatever taste you might have, or where you live, or the kind of people you associate with, you marry, and so on. Okay, a lot of that comes from your past lives. Okay, so what we're here to do is to break that cycle. And what science has told us is that roughly 95% of our behaviors, patterns, what we call the subconscious patterns, uh, pretty much drive who you are, pretty much drive your decision making, your well-being, and so on. So we're pretty much like a machine in a way.
Mhm.
We have only maybe 5–10% of our abilities for creative development, creative thinking, and so on. So the whole point of what I'm doing is to collaborate with you to empower you to uh, kind of like narrow your past life influences and expand your creative now, you might say living in the now,
Mhm.
as opposed to living in the past.
Right.
Um, and that to me is really important, and what it is that we're looking to expand your capability of accessing your infinite array of potentialities and possibilities. Every human being has an infinite array of potentialities.
Right.
We only access a really, really narrow part, really, really tiny part, because we're going from our past. Okay. So this is to help you expand your possibilities to create a future that is more in line with what we call your true self, not your thinking self or your past self, but your true self. And your true self, I look at it as you are love, joy, compassion, passion, appreciation, kindness,
Mhm.
grace, gratitude, and generosity. That
Right.
to me is your true self. Your creative self, and that's living in the now and the present, not living in your past. Okay, so that's kind of like what I do and how I work. So when I'm working with you, it's a collaborative process. We access the Akashic records together, our energetic field, our higher self, whatever you want to call that. We access that together, and I become essentially an interpreter of those energies for you.
Right.
And you will hear me speak in English. I become a channel. I will channel the energies, but I'm fully present. Unlike Casey, who was in a trance,
Right.
I'm fully present. So when we get into your Akashic records, you'll hear me speak in English, typically about the chakras, what chakras we're working with, your throat chakra, heart chakra, third eye, or whatever the case, whatever I'm getting is what we're working with. The main thing we're doing, like I said earlier, is a frequency conversation.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
do that through what we call light language.
Right.
Now, light language. A lot of people have never heard that term before. You probably have heard the term speaking in tongue.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
speaking in tongue is a form of light language, but through a more religious connotation. Because when you're listening to somebody speaking in tongue, it sounds like gibberish.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't make any sense. Well, that's the whole point. It's a frequency conversation that's bypassing your thinking, your analytical mind. So we get into the heart of who you truly are.
Yeah. You kind of feel like you're making it up or something like that. Like,
Yeah, yeah, in a way, yeah. And so it's on purpose so we don't start thinking, okay, what's Bill saying? And I'm interpreting, oh my God, I was this in the past, I did that. Why did I, we want to bypass that thinking part of you.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
want to focus on the heart of who you are and who you could be. So the frequency conversation actually works with your DNA because the DNA connects with vibrations or tones. So you're going to hear like, I'm not going to do it right now, but maybe at then we'll do a little sample.
I was going to ask if you would be willing to do that.
Yeah, yeah, I'll do that. So you get a sense of what we're doing here. But right now, I'm in what I call the menu part. We can do the menu or the meal. The
Yeah.
menu is the information. You see all these different, great entrees and so on. So you're kind of like looking and you're getting information.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
meal is the actual experience, and that's the important part. So right now, we're in the kind of the menu part of this conversation. Then we'll get to the meal later on.
Right. So
Okay.
I have a question. Sorry to interrupt you, but when you discovered, like after reading the book
Mhm.
and discovered this information, and you thought, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing and all that, did you have to sort of go into some sort of training for it, or did you just the knowingness, the knowledge was within, and you just sort of tuned in and it came out?
Yeah, the latter. It was a knowing. I realized this was my gift and my talent, that I
Mhm.
had done this other lifetimes, and I'm just a little, the most current incarnation of this body of work.
Yeah.
But it took me a lifetime of doing a lot of healing and clearing before I got to the place where I was able to listen and hear the book tell me, okay, it's time to get into this
Right.
and to work with the Akashic records. Yeah, so this is a knowing. I didn't need any training. I just
Okay.
basically what I did is I relearned how to access the records.
Mhm.
And like I said, you can do through prayer, shamanic journey, and so on. I'm at a place where I just tune in with to the individual energetically, and off we go. I don't need to do a prayer. I don't need to do any kind of a process beforehand or
Amazing.
after. Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah,
A lot of people do need to, even those who are rather well versed in their craft, they go into a space and whatever and
right.
do that.
No, I don't have to do that. I just jump right in with you, and then off we go. Let me finish the other part there. So the light language. So the light language, we're actually working directly with your DNA, which science now recognizes as mostly quantum energy,
Mhm.
not just the double helix with the four amino acids and so on. It's far more complicated than we ever thought. And so we're actually influencing, and the way we connect is through your DNA, from my understanding of all this. It's like I said, it's a lot more than we give it credit for and what we think it is. So I'm working with you with light language, and you'll hear at the end of this conversation more about what the light language sounds like. I also work with what we call vibrational tones. Again, it's another frequency conversation. So everything I want to emphasize, everything we're doing is a frequency conversation. It's not the words that I'm saying or anything else. Okay. That's just kind of like a guidepost, but
Uh-huh.
it's not the actual work. The work is a frequency conversation. But and as we're speaking, we're all speaking in a frequency conversation anyway. I don't care what language you're talking about, but what I call light language is a precursor to human language.
Right.
It's prior to human. A lot of people say, oh, it sounds like Polynesian or certain Native American languages or Scandinavian or whatever. Well, it's like the precursor of all those, of all our human language. And the interesting, the Russians have discovered through their research on DNA that language is actually embedded within our DNA.
Oh,
Yeah, it's I don't understand much about that yet. I'm just starting to read about it, but that our languaging and our ability to language not only is influenced by our chromosomes, I think it's chromosome 3 or 4, I forget which ones, um, but that it's actually the coding, you might say, energetic coding is embedded in our DNA. So that's why we're working with the DNA in a frequency conversation. It's absolutely fascinating.
it does
It's
sound
it's
really
amazing
fascinating.
what we can do. Yeah, so I mean that's really basically what I'm doing. I'm working with you. I connect with. I ask you. What kind of concerns or issues do you have that you're bringing in that you want to work with? It kind
Right.
of focuses. That way, it will have you thinking about what's your intention.
Mhm.
Intention is so critical in any work that you do. I don't care whether it's Akashic Records, Reiki, going to your doctor. What is your intention? That sets the tone and the energy of the work you're doing. So
Right.
be really conscious and clear about what your intent is for the work that you're doing.
Okay. And what if the person who's seeing you doesn't really know? Is that still okay? Do you
Oh, it doesn't
still?
matter. Don't worry. We'll dig up stuff.
Okay.
I was at a expo this past weekend, and I do at these different expos I do mini sessions.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And a lot of people there had no prior knowledge of the Akashic records and said, okay, well, just tell me what, like tell me whatever was going on
What
with
comes
me,
up? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what's my purpose? Why am I here? Blah, blah, blah. Um, and we will find a lot of material. I mean, don't forget, we've lived many, 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 many lifetimes, and
Right.
we have been the good, bad, and the ugly. So, we have been scientists. We have been most of the time, we've been peasants and
Mhm.
farmers or
Right.
hunter-gatherers, and then we've been warriors. We've been on the battlefield, been wars constantly throughout our history, or at least this history. So we have killed, we've been killed, we've gone through plagues and we've gone through all kind of famines and yada, yada, yada. So we have a lot of different kind of judgments and opinions and so on about our particular lives and how they've influenced us. And, so we build on our past to who we are today.
Right. You've told me about my life during Genghis Khan and that he hunted me down and killed me. I remember that one because it just took me by such surprise. And
Yeah.
um, it was interesting that that one came up at the time that I saw you.
Yeah, and that may or may not come up with the individual. If I'm supposed to relay that to you, I do.
Right.
Otherwise, it won't come up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If there are lifetimes that really are not that important, why would you want to know anyway? I mean, what's the
Exactly.
point? So
Exactly.
we're focusing more on your behaviors and patterns than we are on actual like event content.
Right. So when you see somebody, I mean, is there like a recommended number of times someone should come and see you, or as many times as they want? How far apart should the sessions be? All that sort of thing.
Okay, so I do not tell you how often to come or whatever. I leave it up to you and your own knowing. I just tell you, the work that we're doing will continue on for days and weeks after the session. Doesn't end when we complete the session for that particular day. So, your only job really is to pay attention to all the shifts and changes that are happening. They
Okay.
may be subtle, they may be overt. I have no idea. Everybody's going to be different.
Right.
And also depends on your level of inner resistance. You may or may not know of the resistance within you to change. Um, and it depends on the issues that you're carrying. And I've had people tell me that it took a week before they recognized something. Others got it, boom, right away.
Right.
Major shifts in their lives. One of the things I do notice a lot is that working with mothers, that once the mother starts shifting, that will shift their relationship with their children, their spouses, and so on. I've heard that happen over and over and over again, where there's conflicts going on between mom and daughter or son or whatever. It's really about the mom shifting because the woman is the one who's in control of the emotions of the family in a
Right.
lot of respects. So once you can start shifting the mom and whatever issue she's got going on, that'll relate down to the kids and to the spouse, and so on. So yeah, it's not just about you, but it's about your family and the whole family constellation and so on. And I've worked with kids. I've worked with kids who, who autistic, kids who have had moms who were alcoholic or high drug abusers, who had coming into this lifetime a lot of different issues going on. And it's been really amazing to see the shifts. I worked with as young as a 6-month-old. Actually, I've even worked with fetuses and pregnant mothers.
Really?
Oh
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
because
what would the mom have to say about, I mean, like, how would she know to come and see you for her baby?
it's just people have a sense that there's something about the Akashic records that they want to work with. That they may have some issues going on, and it may not even be related to the child or to the fetus.
Okay.
That they're, you've heard of epigenetics,
Yes.
which is beyond which means beyond genes, that our environment influences
Uh-huh.
the child,
Yeah.
in our genetic development and our genetic structure. So, between, say, the third trimester in pregnancy and age 6 or 7, that's the formative years of the child. And the environment plays such an important part during that time period. So, again, what's going on with the mom influences what's going on with the fetus. Now,
Hmm.
I'll give you an example for me. I found out much later in my life that my mother told me that she was really depressed. Now, I'm assuming that it wasn't postmortem, but it was depression during the pregnancy. And so I've always carried a low level depression, and I could never figure out why. But in a way, probably my guess is that I got that through her, when I was, conceived and, still in her womb, because of that energy that of the mother's influence within the child and the
I wish I
development of
knew
the
you when
child.
I was pregnant. Oh my
I'm
God.
sorry.
I wish I knew you when I was pregnant.
Oh, yeah,
That's like light bulbs going off in my head now.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it is what it is, and I just love working with, I've taught a lot of pregnant moms and work with pregnant mothers. It's to me, it's really important. It's no different than say, don't drink alcohol, but a sense that your energy influences the development of the child.
Very true.
What's going on with you? What's going on with say, your spouse? What's going on in the family? Your own concerns about carrying a child, birthing a child, raising a child. All that's going to have it epigenetically influence the child and their development. So we want to, help it. What I want to do is help you or assist you or collaborate with you to be as clear as possible. As a pregnant mom or a mom of a young child, it doesn't matter. I remember working with an autistic child, and what I do with children, young children, is I'll spread the sessions over 4 15-minute sessions a week, and
Uh-huh.
I'll do that remotely by phone. I work by phone, by video, or in person.
Okay.
Doesn't matter because it's all energy.
Right.
And
Right.
these particular people lived in Canada, and the child was 4 years old and had not spoken a word. And so what I got back from the mom after the 4 15-minute sessions was that the child who had never spoken before was able to say mom, mommy, daddy for
Oh,
the first
wow.
time. So whatever happened, I have no idea. I mean, I'm the one interpreting and offering you that information, and then off you go. So whatever happened, during that period, and also with the mother, because I also work with the mother. When I'm working with children, I have to have work with one of the parents first.
Right. Right. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, and then I'll work with the child. So you don't want to send a child back into the same energetic milieu. What's the
Hmm.
point?
Hmm.
You want to start shifting the entire family.
True. True. Okay. And do you ever work with groups like at a time, or is it mainly just individual sessions?
I work with groups. I
Really?
love groups. I
Okay.
work with groups of up to 10 people.
Oh my
And I
God.
work in the Mid-Atlantic area. These are all in person right now, at different wellness centers, meditation centers. Some people have individually been hosting me in their homes. But yeah, the groups are generally about 4 hours long, and they're on a Saturday or Sunday. And the first hour is a conversation like we're doing right now about the Akashic records, or any questions that the individuals may have. And then we'll take a break, and then I'll work with each individual in the room up front for about, 10 15 minutes.
Kind of like
So
the workshop that I attended with you.
yeah, they're mini sessions. It's like what I do when I vendor at a healing or health expo. I'll do these short, like introductory session, but they're actual experiential sessions. They're no different than what I'm doing for the hour-long private sessions that I do,
Yeah.
but they're just truncated. They're short.
Mhm.
So it gives you a real flavor of what goes on.
So, energetically for yourself, do you get energized when you work with someone, or does that kind of drain you a little bit and you have to recharge?
And now I'm always energized.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, if I was drained all the time, I wouldn't do it.
Right.
Like, what's the point? I would, it's really, really, really energizing. And for me, it's so uplifting to see the shifts in people. A
Hmm.
lot of times I'll see people come in really gray, ashen, like they're on a deathbed, and all of a sudden their blood is flowing, and eyes are popping wide open, and they're exuberant in joy. So yeah, I mean, that to me, it's really a joy to see, to work with somebody.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. So, do you have any particular upcoming like classes? Do you teach other people to do this sort of thing? Or um, how do you plan on, carrying this work? Is it always going to be you doing it, or would you be interested in training other people to do this?
Okay, at this point, I don't train anybody else because of the unique way that I work. There are people out there who do offer teaching or trainings on how to access the Akashic records.
Mhm.
If anybody is interested, they can contact me through my website, and I can give them that information. I have attempted, but for whatever reason, that's just not my purpose right now is to teach.
Okay.
It's just to do the work. And yeah, I do groups. Like I said, up to 10 people, and I work at different wellness centers. And I also vendor at different healing expos, like on March 30th on Sunday is the semi-annual Pathways Magazine
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
expo at the Tyson's Corner Hilton
Mhm.
in Tyson's Corner, Virginia.
I should come see
Uh,
you.
I have a group that I'll be working with in Annapolis, Maryland in mid-April, uh, Unity by the Bay. I'm all over. Another one in May, north of Baltimore. I work with a Teal Center in Arlington, Virginia, Nourishing Journey Wellness Center in Columbia, Maryland, Pittsburgh. I mean, I just work wherever people will sponsor
You're
me.
really busy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So Pathways and Tysons. Beginning a
And
visit.
yeah. Yeah. And then again, I do the private sessions anytime by phone, by video, or in person. And I live near Bethesda, Maryland, near Washington, D.C.
Okay. What's your preference though? Do you rather see people in person, or is it just
It doesn't matter. It's your choice. So I can see
keep them
people across.
online when you're like, for example, like when I do reconnective healing, I'm not connected to any devices. I just do the work and then afterwards I connect. How
No,
do
I
you do it? Do you
uh,
stay on the line when you're working
I
with
stay on the line.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that direct connection. Now, when I'm working with a baby or a child, that child, I'm on the phone or video with at least the mother or the father or both, but the
Hmm.
child is typically in the room. May
Okay.
not be aware of what we're doing, it doesn't matter, but the energy is there.
Right, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, when you're working with, well, let's just say an adult, for the sake of, the question, it's a little easier if it's an adult, I guess.
Okay.
Do loved ones show up too, even if they are living, or is it just to the records that you connect?
I just connect to the records. I'm not a medium. I
Right.
don't do
But has it ever
mediumship.
happened that anybody's shown up?
Yeah. Yeah, it has from time to time. And if that energy does show up, I'll relay that to the individual.
Okay.
But it's not that often. And it's not that often that I'll see like with where there's some particular lifetime that I'm supposed to, tell you about. That's not that frequent. Typically, it's just the frequency conversation, the light language, the vibrational tones, and the occasional speaking in English.
Okay. Okay. It's
Yeah.
interesting though. I think somebody did show up for me also.
Okay.
Our sessions were just interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why to me that they're always enlivening and empowering.
Right.
And I always get so much joy out of working with people and seeing their shifts and changes, the way their face changes. I call it a cheap facelift.
That's
Because
great.
a lot of our aging is just due to stresses of living, day-to-day living.
Very true. Very
Yeah,
true.
so you start releasing all that stress and strain and anxiety, and living your future through your past instead of in the present, and that just will de-age you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So do you also have a particular regimen for your own vessel? Do you suggest people after they see you to do anything special dietary?
Not no, not unless I'm given information.
Okay.
Now, sometimes I will get information about some particular body part that is like inflamed.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
was working. last week with an individual, and I just saw there was some issue going on with the pancreas. I just had this knowing of pancreas, and then there was red inflammation, so I'll relay that to the individual.
Okay. Okay.
Or if I see, a lot of times I'll see cancer patients and I'll just see kind of like a black hole or black something, where the cancer is located, and we'll work on that particular area,
Okay.
and so on. Um, I don't call myself a medical medium or medical intuitive. That's
Right.
not what I do, but it does show up from time to time. And just know that with physical issues, they're really stemming, or that they're a symptom of an underlying energetic issue that you haven't resolved. Everything I've seen with illnesses, and I don't care what it is, what your symptoms are this lifetime, there's an underlying energetic issue that needs to be cleared.
Right. Right.
And
I believe that too. Very
yeah,
much.
I'll give you an example. There were two women that I worked with a number of years ago, each individually. They didn't know each other, and both were diagnosed with severe endometriosis,
Mhm.
inflammation of the uterus.
Yeah.
And they went through all the standard medical practices, alternative medical practices, and it wasn't helping them. So I met each one in a different group, Akashic Record, and then they did individual sessions with me. I think two individual sessions with me. And I remember one of the women was she that what we discovered was that at some past life she was raging angry against God. Whatever the reasons, who knows? But there was this anger in her, and it manifested as inflammation of her uterus.
Wow.
And what happened was that the last session we got into that energy of her fury towards God. 2 weeks later, she called me and said the docs can't find any inflammation.
Wow.
And that happened with both women, and it's happened with many others also. And it's not my primary purpose to heal, like to help clear physical, but that is a result of clearing energetic issues.
Hmm.
It could be diabetes, it could be heart attacks, cancers, whatever the case might be.
Amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing. So, would you consider doing a mini demonstration for us
yeah,
today?
yeah. What I'll do is I'll kind of tune in, and we'll see what shows up.
Sounds
I,
great.
I have I have no idea, but you'll get a sense of what light language and the vibrational tones sound like.
Hmm.
And just pay attention, don't judge it, don't just allow the energy to flow, and then pay attention over time to see what happens.
Excellent.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me just tune in here. Koye me kuya na kuya jehe ma kuya he peta kuya he ma kuya ta kuya. Ye jehe ha ma kuya a tu kuya he pe te ke ka kuya ma kuya a ta kuya he pe te ke wa. Koye me no hiya shaka ma kuya him na hiya ke ta ka jehe na kuya e na kuya na ka ama kuya. Koye e na kuya awa tu kuya pe he te ke ka wa ta wa. Oye, makoye ehe awa tokuya jamano ke makoye ehe pehete. Thank you, thank you, thank you, dear ones. Ooh, yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oye, makoye, such beautiful, beautiful energies you truly are. Makoye awa tokuye ha makoye. Time to recognize, shall we say, your magnificence. The beauty that you are, the love that you are, the compassion that you are, dear ones. The joy. Ooh, makoye ehe pehete ke kawakua. Koia marohiam na koia sheke hene ke ka makoia awa toki e pehete ke wa. Koia menuhiam na koia ashakiam na kiata kia te ke ka watoa. Koia menuhiam na koia echian jijana ma koia awa toki e pehete ke ka watoa. Breathing, 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 dear ones. Time to breathe, 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 breathe so deeply, so deeply, so deeply with him. Time to breathe, 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 breathe so deeply with him. Kuya bato kui. Ya jamanu him na kui ehe pehe te ke kawatua. Ya jamanu him yak yak ta kui e awa tu kui e pe awa tua. You are so loved, so loved, so loved, dear ones. So many beautiful, beautiful beings of light here loving you, blessing you on your journey, on your path, on your way. You are perfectly safe. 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 The energies of all that is loving you, loving you, loving you, loving you, loving you, dear ones. Time to truly love, love, love yourself fully, wholly, and completely. Shall we say a universal truth of loving yourself, loving yourself, loving yourself first? Not a selfish act, not self-centered, but a universal truth. For truly, how can you love another any more than you love yourself? Time to love, 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 love you, to open your heart to yourself, dear ones. And we bless you, we honor you on your journey, on your path, on your way, and we are complete. And I want to thank the masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I want to thank the lords of the Akashic Records for their point of view. And I want to thank the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. The records are now closed, amen. The records are now closed, amen. And the records are now closed, amen.
Wow, that was amazing. Sorry, let me let my cat out. He's making noises over here.
Mhm.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Animals love the work.
They do. He was just like,
Yeah, yeah, the frequency. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
wow, that was really powerful. My goodness.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. So, um, would I'm guessing other people who will tune into this will also be feeling the frequencies.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And this can, maybe have results as like opening up or experiences for anyone who's tuning into this.
Yeah. Yeah, what we're doing was a kind of like a universal clearing in a way. I do these at the end of every group.
Hmm.
So I just work with the entire room and what's there, or like on next Sunday during the Pathways Healing Expo, I'll give an hour's talk to like a couple hundred people there. And at the end, I'll do a clearing for the entire room, actually for the entire, everybody in the entire space there.
Wow,
Yeah.
that was amazing. Gosh, I miss this. I'm going to come and see you
Okay.
for a
Good.
session, for an individual
Good.
session.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yes, it has. It has been way
Yeah.
too long, and we're going to put your information, however you want people to be able to connect with you and know about the kinds of things that you do. We'll put it under on the page where this video goes so that
Okay,
people can
perfect.
access, yeah, access and any kind of trips you might be doing with other people. Do you collaborate with others on this?
Yeah, there's a practitioner in Annapolis at Nibbana Healing Center, and Nikki is the proprietress. And she and I discovered when I did a group there about a year and a half ago that she does a form of Akashic records, but it's all through symbols.
Oh, okay.
So she will, it's like automatic writing, but she'll, what happened was that I was working with the people in the room, doing the individual sessions, and she was sitting behind them and she started taking symbolic notes in a way. So she was getting symbols for each individual. And then she was getting information about some aspects of their being or what's going on with them. Okay. And what we decided to do was to collaborate together to work together with the individuals there. And so I would do the general, clearing with the light language and so on, while she was behind the individual writing up her symbolic notations and then her interpretations of all that. So then she would give that to the individual after we were done.
Oh, wow.
So the individual got a double whammy.
Amazing. Was it symbols or sigils?
symbols.
Symbols.
In her case, that they looked like Reiki runes,
Okay.
but that was just the way she was working with the Akash. But it was through the Akash of the individual that she was getting this information.
Right,
So
right.
she would add to, in her own way, what I was doing.
Hmm.
So we formed this collaboration, and it was just wonderful.
It is amazing because there is something tangible to what you do, almost
Yeah,
like as a, that's very interesting. So you guys work together sometimes.
yeah, yeah. I'll do a group at her wellness center in downtown Annapolis, and we'll have a group of people, and then we'll collaborate together. For that. Now, she's the only one that I've actually ever collaborated with in that way.
Okay.
Uh, but I do play with channeling with a friend of mine in New Jersey. We meet once a week and just play in the Akash, and then she does a lot of different channeling of different energies and so on. Um, yeah, I'm always looking for people to play with.
It's really fun.
Yeah,
I'm interested in channeling. Um, I've always been interested in channeling. For some reason, I feel like it's not for me for this lifetime. However, um, I do I feel like I do some form of channeling when I do my angel art, which was
you absolutely are channeling, my dear. You are channeling. You're
because
just
I
doing
heard
your,
that from my guys for weeks that put these, make them available. And that was like the first time that I was contacted in that way, very specifically, and
yeah.
so I consider those a kind of channeling.
They are. They are. I mean, anybody who, downloads artwork, that your whatever vision you might have, writing, science, I don't care, that's all part of the Akashic records you're channeling. You may not know it. How many musicians have I heard like Paul McCartney from the Beatles saying, "Oh, I just downloaded this,
Right.
lyrics," or John Lennon
Exactly.
said, "I downloaded the melody."
Yeah,
That's their Akash, but they just have that ability. They're tuned a certain kind of way.
right, right, right.
Picasso, I mean, all these different artists and scientists.
Yeah,
I mean, how did Da Vinci do what he did? I mean, it was amazing. Same with Tesla. They're all downloading, that information.
absolutely.
You're
Absolutely.
doing it. So you're channeling your way.
Right,
You're
right.
already doing it.
I guess, one shouldn't compare to
Yeah.
other people
And
because
comparison is
sometimes
a death knell.
we've become accustomed, at least I'm talking for myself, that channeling is mainly like spoken words and things like that, which is what
No,
I've seen
no,
most of my life about
no.
channeling. But I even took a channeling class, but I realized this is not the right time for me right now to do. Although in one of the
And
groups
that
I
that
did
may
channel.
not be that may not be your vehicle.
Right, right.
You've got your vehicle of your art and whatever you're doing. That's your vehicle.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Tesla never said, "Oh, I want to download the Palladians." I mean, he just did his work, his work with electricity and engineering,
Yeah.
but he was downloading it. That
Absolutely.
was his way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Artists do it, musicians do it. Each one has their own way of doing it, and they're channeling, and they're not channeling entities. Like a lot of people think that channeling is just like channeling the Palladians or the
Right.
Arturians or Jesus or Mother
Yeah.
Mary or whatever. No, it's far more encompassing.
Right. That's true. I just have to remember that. Sometimes I
Yeah,
forget because there is the wanting, but that's, I'm in my mind and my ego wants to be
yeah,
eased so that I could, connect with, whoever up
you
there.
are, and you're doing it your way.
Yeah.
I'm doing it my way, but I'm not an artist. I'm not a musician. You might say what I'm doing is my own form of music in a way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's just the way I do it. I'm not pretending to be Paul McCarthy or whatever.
Right.
Uh, and yeah, comparisons are a death knell.
That's
That's your
so
that's
true.
your thinking self. Every time you start comparing, we're in our thinking body, not our true self.
Yes. I
Because then you get into tension. Oh my God, I'm not good enough, and blah 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 blah, and then nothing happens.
Right, right. And I've seen that for real with myself, times when I just become the mere mortal human.
Yeah.
And I just realized, like, okay, you got into your ego mind, just step away and just relax. It's all good. I have to remind myself a lot.
Yeah. And what you're doing is beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well,
I
thank
so
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you, Bill, for joining me today. And this time we won't make it so long. We'll have to connect sooner than
Right. How's your
sooner.
daughter? What is she up to?
We'll chat about her
Okay.
afterwards. She's good. She's good. But
Good.
yeah, her experience was amazing with you as well.
Right. I always remember that.
Yeah, yeah. I think she and I will be connecting with you about a session.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Bill. We will put all the information that you want them to know in this on this page, and people will be able to connect with you.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a great evening, everybody.